Sometimes life puts someone in your path who refuses to look away from injustice and instead chooses to stand right in the middle of it, offering safety, hope, and love to those who need it most. Our guest today has spent years fighting for some of the most vulnerable children in the world, kids who faced unthinkable trauma, and building a sanctuary where they can begin to heal. She's a founder of Rafiki Mwema, a charity that has grown from a desperate act of compassion into a lifeline for dozens of young lives. In this conversation, we'll uncover what led her to dedicate everything to this cause, the incredible impact it's having, and how you can be part of the story. So, welcome to the show, Sarah. It's our absolute pleasure to have you on the Givefluence Podcast. Just to start off, and for the listeners, what first drew you to the children and communities you now serve over in Kenya?
It's a very long story, and I'll try to sum it up as quickly as I can. Short of it is, my mother said from a young age, I don't know, maybe 3 or 4, I was always talking about Africa. And my only memory of that is, I'm 47, so I don't know how old you are, but we used to have World Vision. We did the 40-hour famine. There were ads on television of, the starving children. And I was very confused about it because always I battled with eating with my mother, and she's like, eat your food, there's starving children in Africa. And I'd be like, well, send it to them. And I could never understand how we were fine and they weren't. And it was just something my mother said I always spoke about. And so growing up, always had a dream to go to Africa. I didn't know where in Africa, just any country. And I was living in Scotland. My mother was working at a local RTA, or Services New South Wales, and a local couple came in and they had 2 what looked like African children. And my mum said, oh, your children are gorgeous. And they started talking, and the couple said that the kids came from Kenya. They were starting an orphanage in Kenya. And this was in 2004, I believe. My first trip to Kenya was 2005, so 20 years ago. I feel very old. And my mum said to the couple, can my daughter, do you take volunteers? And they said, well, we haven't started. We don't know if we do. But sure, we do. Here's our email. And my mum hesitated to give me the email because she knew that I'd be straight there, and she really didn't want me to go because she didn't think I'd come back. And my grandmother, her mother said to her, you have to give her the email. It's all she's ever wanted to do. You know that this is what she's born for. So she gave me the email, and I was there 2 weeks later. So I ended up in Kenya just because of that. It could have been any country, but that's where I ended up. And I was really happy I did because I fell in love with the children there. And this was an orphanage that was started. Was in Nakuru. This is not the same charity as Rafiki Mwema. So I visited the orphanage, and then I went and started. For 3 months I was there. It was life-changing. It was incredible. And then I was due to, it was everything you could imagine and more, because you can't really imagine until you're amongst it. And then I was due to start work on Princess Cruises, a cruise line, after being in Kenya. And I travelled to LA ready to start on the cruise line, and I was in a really bad car accident. And about 7 days after I left Kenya, and that kind of changed everything because I was very banged up. I was thrown out of a car that was flipping at 120 kilometres an hour, compound fracture of my femur, my foot, my hip, my pelvis, and banged up my legs, like really lots, because I think from the car, the wheels, we don't really know, my legs were all burnt. It was in Palm Springs, so if you've ever been there, very hot on the desert, like 46 degrees.
Extremely hot.
It was, yeah. So I had the car accident, and that changed everything. I couldn't go on the cruise lines. I was stuck in LA while I recovered. I went to Palm Spring Hospital. I was airlifted. It cost a fortune, as you can imagine. And the funny story is, my travel insurance expired about 7 hours before the car accident. I'd had it for about
You're kidding.
6 years, my travel insurance, and it expired about 7 hours before the accident because starting the cruise and leaving Africa was overlapping, but then the cruise started my start date 2 weeks before. So there was just a week and a half gap, and I'm like, oh, I haven't used it. Why would I renew? And you're kidding.
It's always in, isn't it?
Exactly. Like 700,000 US later, the costs were before I could even go home. Anyway, long story, I ended up going home to my mum in Ballina, and I was just thinking of the Kenyans that I'd met. It was a week. I had the accident exactly 7 days after I left there. I thought if I had this accident in Kenya, I would have bled out 100% because I was just lucky to be airlifted where I went. And I was bedbound and just doing rehab for about 18 months, just doing rehab every single day. And while I was recovering, I got a computer and I just taught myself web design, graphic design. The people who had this orphanage, they had no idea how they were going to get sponsors or anything. So I just made a little brochure for them. Then I made a website. Then I sponsored a child. My mum sponsored a child. I just while I was recovering, I just created the office for that charity in Australia and just ended up creating myself a full-time role in running, this orphanage in Australia and getting that orphanage fully funded for 50 kids they ended up bringing in. So it really helped my recovery focusing on
helping others,
those kids, because someone's always worse off. I was really banged up. I got very depressed a lot of times. I was in a lot of pain, but being able to focus on anyone else was really great, teaching myself new things. And that orphanage helped hundreds of children now. But that's how I got into Kenya. But that charity is in the same town as Rafiki Mwema. It's in Nakuru in Kenya. And I met a lot of people when I was working at that orphanage, because I then went back to the orphanage after the car accident when I was able to travel and saw the kids and met them again and met a lot of people who volunteered there and so on. And I had met a lady
in the early days.
Yeah, exactly. I had met a lady who did, who was a child therapist, and she did play therapy with some of the children at the orphanage. And I always thought it was a bit of a joke. I'm like, play therapy, like how's that going to help a kid? Okay. And I witnessed incredible things where this lady would, do play therapy with the children who had been horrifically sexually abused. And the things that they would, I don't know how to say it, act out in the toys that they would have were clearly showing what had happened to them when they were younger. And I saw remarkable things that this lady could do with play therapy. So I really believed in what she did. She was just one of the many people I met when I was working with this orphanage. And fast forward a few years, I had handed that role over to someone else. I trained up a volunteer and they took over because I wanted to focus on my health to have a family. So I ended up starting my own web design and graphic design company after my university degree from Google, from bed. And it was really successful, and I did that from home. And I fell pregnant and had a daughter, Lavisa. So she was born in 2011, and I always remember the same lady who who I met doing play therapy at the other orphanage. We were in touch. I was in touch with a lot of people. She spoke about the need. She was traveling to Kenya a lot, and she spoke about the need in Kenya for when young girls had been raped or abused or whatever the situation was, from the moment that happened. So if they go to the police station or the children's department, after they are rescued from the situation, there's nowhere for them to go. If they can't go back home, none of the homes would take them because there's such a stigma around sexual abuse. So they were putting these children into a remand centre, which is like a jail for kids. And, you could think of a 3-year-old girl going into a remand centre. She's just been raped. Most definitely will be further abused in the remand centre until the court case. And the court case could be 3 to 4 months away if they're lucky. So they're in the remand centre for that long. And then expected to testify against whoever raped them. Never going to happen. So the lady who I was in touch with mentioned that, she wanted to start a children's home, a home for girls who need somewhere to go until they face court. And the home would, she called Rafiki Mwema, and that translates to a loyal friend. So I was doing my web design company, and I had my daughter Lavisa in my little baby Björn, and was working away building websites, and she told me she was opening this home, Rafiki Mwema, and I had built her website, and I said, okay, I'll help you fundraise. I'll put that on your website. I said, I can't read the stories because, I know the stories. I know what's happened to
Yeah.
these kids, but she was putting particular instances on the website to raise funds. And I just said, I can't, normally I'd read the copy and correct it. I said, I can't read it. I will just copy and paste it onto the website because it was heartbreaking. And I
I
just
bet.
couldn't imagine, looking down at Lavisa and seeing these stories of these girls. I mean, it's heartbreaking before you have children, but then when you have your own daughter, it's another
Yeah.
level.
For those who have never been there, like, can you describe what life is like at the Rafiki Mwema for the children that go there?
It's very different to what it was then to what it is now. Initially, when the first home was started called Rafiki Mwema, that was just a one rental house for the girls to go in, and that was filled within 2 weeks. It had about 23 girls there. And
That
that was just
quick.
a very, really, really quick. And,
Yeah.
that was at capacity, so it could have been filled more.
Mm.
And within about a couple of months, that's when I came on board fully because she ran out of money. She couldn't keep it going. And, that's how Rafiki Mwema was born in Australia, the charity, because I needed to start the charity in Australia to get funds to support her. So that's how Rafiki Mwema, that's how we named the charity in Australia. And initially it was just a rental house. And back then it was just a rental house. Now we have a 14-acre farm with a small girls' house and 2 bigger girls' houses and a special needs house for girls. But on top of that, we also have a transition house, which is called Makia Matoto. So that leads to when girls first come to us, you can imagine, I think our house is fabulous, but the girls are very scared. So you can imagine a house full of 30 girls screaming and excited with a new girl arriving, and she's terrified. We're able to put her into a transition house with one of our aunties for about 2 weeks when they first arrive. They go in there with a key worker, so that's one of the aunties who is just their go-to person, their person of safety and trust, and they will stay in Makia Matoto and come out to the small girls' house at lunch, go back into Makia Matoto, and so on until they are comfortable and they go in with the main girls, because it's really overwhelming and loud, and all of our girls are full of excitement. But every case is really different, and some children handle it better, some children don't. But through all of the time when the key worker has them in Makia Matoto and in the main girls' house, all of our staff are therapeutically trained. So they're always doing therapy in just conversations, in just day-to-day life with the kids.
I was going to ask how you measure the progress for each child. Like when the trauma runs so deep, like how do you measure the progress and know when it's time for them to transition or move to a different house? Do they come to you and they say, look, I'm ready, or?
No, generally not, because a lot of them are just far too young. Our staff are therapeutically trained, but it's been many years in the making, but we have a really great reporting system and a system with all the steps that we take. So from the arrival to when sometimes they're in a court case. So I have to go right back. If I can just tell you first what we have on the farm, and then I can explain a few other things.
That's totally fine.
So we have a 14-acre farm, and we have the small girls' house, which is when we bought the farm. A donor locally to me here gave me the funds to buy the farm back in 2016, and it just had it just had one house on there when we bought it. Since then, we've built 2 girls' houses, which we call the Queen's Castle. We've built Makia Matoto, which is the transition house, and we've built a little hut office. We've also built 2 boys' houses, which we call the King's Castles. We have built a Hoodoo Moi, which is a special needs house for children who all different situations. If children have gone into psychosis, which has happened, we've put them in there with a key worker. When kids are coming off drugs, when kids had COVID, you know, all sorts of reasons, but generally it's built for special needs for when they're older and they have nowhere to go. We also have a school, which we call Jasiri Rafiki School. And that will bring me back to, if the girls are with us and they are in a court case, if they're testifying against their rapist, they are in danger, because in Kenya, as it should be everywhere in the world, if they are found guilty of abusing a child, they're sent to prison for life. And of course, if they are found guilty of murder, they're sent to prison for life. So the girls who are in a current court case, they are in real danger of being killed, because the rapist is often, not always, but often a breadwinner for a family, you know, probably a large family. So if that rapist goes to jail for life, the whole family is at risk of not having any money. So they're going to be sent to prison for life anyway if they get caught. So they always try, not always, often they would try to get rid of the evidence, which is murdering the children, because either way they're going to prison for life. So our girls' lives are really at risk. And
so the security at the place would have to be pretty tight, right?
Exactly, which is why we built the school initially, because when the girls are with us, we really want their whole stay with us to be as normal and with routine as possible, with the best chance of being able to reintegrate back home. But we can't send them out to a normal school because of the risk. So we built Jasiri Rafiki for the girls who are in a current court case. They can get dressed, put their uniform on and go to school and so on and come back. But the security we have 4 Maasai guards. So you know, Maasais, have you ever been to Kenya?
I haven't personally. It's on the agenda. I'd love to go
It's
there.
amazing. But Maasais, you would know if you saw them. They have the plaid. They're like the warriors. They
the
have
khaki ones.
the amazing, normally red and white striped like plaid, but they have all the beads and the amazing big earrings and the beautiful jewelry. But they are known as Maasai warriors, and they do the jumping dance. They're incredible, but they are known to be really tough. So if you want protection, you get Maasais, because they are fierce, and they are known to, they have bow and arrows with snake poison on them. And people know if you have guards with Maasai, you just don't attempt to go on there. We also have 8 German Shepherd dogs that are trained by the Maasais, and that's incredible watching the Maasais work with the dogs. It's really cool. We also have an electric fence that goes around the perimeter of the farm. And we have like a security button to a security firm just to top it off. That's 24 hours.
Really good security, and that just goes to show the level of danger that these young girls are in by potentially, they're rapists. Absolutely. Right? So I totally understand. I think that's really, really important and amazing what you're doing over there. So just talking about community and support, like, how have people both locally in Kenya and also internationally, obviously here in Australia, stepped up to support your work? And, what are some fundraising things you're doing at the moment?
There's been so many ways that people have supported us and can support us. Many years ago, when we first bought the farm, we wanted to move the big girls who were in a rental in town onto the farm. And we started a GoFundMe with one of our ambassadors, Constance Hall, who has a good following on Facebook. And we had an aim for $70,000 to build a house on the farm. And we thought, we're never going to get it, but we can shoot for the stars. And we launched that, and the GoFundMe page crashed. And within about 10 hours, we had $100,000 on it. Every time we were refreshing, it was just going up. It was a dream. And then I stopped it at 200,000. It was incredible.
What?
And that was small donations from, it was about 678 people donated to that. And some people were saying, I only have $5.
I love that you know the number exactly. You know exactly how many people donated. That's
Because
how
I
much
had
it
to
meant to you.
stop it at 200,000 because I'm very special with
Mm,
my numbers, and it said like 678 people donated. And
yeah,
some people were saying we could only give $5, it's all I had, but look
that's
at what
fine.
happens when so many people
Yeah.
donate.
A little can add
And
up to a lot. We say that a lot at Little Phil, actually, and it goes to show the power of ambassadors, right? And that's sort of what we're hoping to tap into with Givefluence. There is, we believe in the power that creators have with their audience if they can
that's
tap into
right.
that and turn it into a force for good. Support charities like
Exactly.
yours. That's what we want to turn on and just make it easy.
That's right. And another example of just a little I think you mentioned it was $1 for every subscriber on Givefluence. Is that right? When people
Yeah,
subscribe on
correct. Yeah, at the
YouTube,
moment,
and you
yeah.
think $1 is nothing, but
Mm.
Constance also, when she was selling her book, she said she would give $1 from every book that was sold. She sold 170,000 books, so she built 2 of our king's castles.
There you
So
go.
that's
See?
$170,000, and she never
Yeah,
thought that would happen. And now, because of her, we've built all of our houses on the farm, and that's just from small donations from many people, and
exactly.
it's
Well, our
mind
most
blowing.
popular, I guess, fundraising product or solution that we've made is a Shopify app that works like if you have a Shopify store, an online store, you can essentially add the Shopify app and choose a charity that you'd like to support, and then a donation amount from every order. It could be like $1 or a percentage. Usually, most brands will choose like 1%, right? It's a small amount, but if that's on all the time, it just
Adds up.
adds up really quick, especially if the store's doing, hundreds or thousands of orders a month. It really adds up
Exactly.
quickly. And that really it's a sustainable recurring donations for a charity that, especially, if you're operating in Kenya, like where you are, the money just goes a lot further and you can get a lot more done and
Exactly.
hire a lot more staff and, ensure the girls are even safer. So
Well,
there you go, people.
that's right. I mean, we've just spoken about the girls, but we have boys as well who have come to us, not in the same real situations, but come to us from the streets. We started our
Mm,
boys' home when Barack Obama was, I was about to say employed. What was he when he became president?
president.
Because he's from, yeah, because he's from Kenya, and he was visiting Kenya. I don't know if it was the year that he came into power, but the government were cleaning up the streets of Nakuru because of his visit. And but what that means is they were there's a lot of street children in our area, a lot of street adults, a lot of street families. They were putting the children in the back of a truck and taking them out to the local game park, which is where the animals are, or the forest, and
Mm,
leaving them there. Or a lot of times they were murdering them out there and leaving them there. They were shooting them. That's what they said. So I don't know if you need to cut that out. But we were
mm,
doing a football program with the boys in town, and a lot of them would tell our staff that they had been put in the back of the truck and they jumped out and told us, and a lot of the kids that they were working with, that we had never seen them again. The only way they would not be put in the back if they could say they had an address, and none of these kids had an address. So very, very
yeah.
quickly, we piled 20 boys into a house.
Mm,
We got a rental house in a day, piled them in, and that's how we started our
mm,
first boys' house. Not very sensible, but we had to save their lives, and that's literally what
of
happened.
course. Yeah.
And that's how the boys' house was started. So a bit of a different way they came to us. But we also do a program called Rafiki Mwema, which translates to a friend on the street. So as I mentioned, there's a lot of street families, street children.
Well, the sounds of it sounds pretty rough. Yeah, on the streets.
Yeah, it is rough, but, I've hung out with our family a lot on the streets and, never felt threatened because they are very protective and very beautiful. But we feed 100 kids every single day on the streets of Nakuru 7 days a week. And one meal for each of those kids is $1. So, it just shows that $1 will feed a kid every single day. So small amounts, really do add up to a lot. But our whole programs cost 55,000 Australian dollars every month.
Every month to maintain.
Yep.
that's a lot of pressure.
We have 46 staff, full-time Kenyan staff employed
Mm,
in Kenya, and 1.5 in Australia.
yeah, I assume one of those is you. But
I'm the
what's the
full one.
hardest part? Yeah, what's the hardest part of running a charity like this? Because I mean, obviously, besides like just the stories and the like the trauma that you have to deal with every day from the emotional toll. But talk us through maybe some hard times of running the charity and what's kept you going.
Where do I start? There's so many. Always what keeps me going is the children and the staff.
Mm,
Always. They,
yeah.
going to Kenya, it's another universe. I go there and it's completely different to here. I have a
Mm.
very good life in Australia and I'm really lucky and I love it here. But going to
Lennox is
Kenya,
beautiful.
yes, I can't complain, exactly. But going to Kenya, the staff and the children, no matter what they face, they
Mm,
are so joyful and so happy, and none of this bullshit none of this stuff that we all worry about here. We all have so much and so many things, and we're always stressed about this and that. They have a very simple life and they're just joyful with that, with none of this extra busyness that we have going on here. That always keeps me going because they work so hard for so little. I mean, our wages that we give them are the highest wages that you can give in Kenya, but they work 6 days a week. They're walking to work, which could be, such a long way. The children, with what they've faced, they are still so happy, and my daughter as well. We've got our kids here who complain about,
mhm.
almost everything, including myself, but they always them. That is always what keeps me going. But the hardest thing to deal with, except for the stories, of course, and the everyday trauma that you hear going
Mm,
on, it is financial,
mhm.
struggling. I've started, as I said, when my daughter was born. So for 14 years, I've been battling to send money every single month, like almost
Yep.
emptying the bank account out and having that pressure on my shoulders, which is my choice,
Mhm.
is a lot to worry about. And I try not to think about it too much or talk about it, thanks. But it's a worry, but one that I just will push through all the time. And I know that
Yep.
one day bigger funding will come in because what can you do?
Have you
You
ever
just keep trying.
taken people over there on little, like, I wouldn't say excursions, but like taken
Volunteer
people from
trips.
Australia, volunteer trips and things like that? Is that something you offer?
Back in the beginning, like back when we started, we had a few people they climb Mount Kilimanjaro and they would
Mm,
then they fundraise and they would then go visit the farm. But the farm, as in that's where our homes are.
yep.
Since we've had a lot of, you learn as you go for many years. And I've worked in Kenya for 20 years and I've seen some good side of volunteering and some awful sides of volunteering. One example I'll give, we have people who come to the farm and
Mm,
you always connect with one child, always,
yep.
and, you go to Kenya, you're in a different universe. So you think you're going to write to them. You think you're going to come back every year. You
Mm,
promise the children, I'm going to write to you all the time. I'll come back and see you next year. That child is holding on to
mm,
that hope. The
yeah.
person leaves and they never come back and they never write.
Yeah.
This child
Yep.
is left either
Mm,
abandoned again. I
mhm.
know one girl who all she says to me is, "Where is this person? Where is this person? Where is this person?" They've never come back. I don't even know who it
Mm,
is, you know?
yeah.
To the kids, our kids who have been through so much trauma and are really trying to heal, having inconsistent people, and not
Mhm.
everyone's inconsistent, but our main goal is for our children to heal. Having people come in
Absolutely. Yep.
and interrupt their day-to-day life and their healing, and they not
Mm.
being malicious. They
Yeah,
think
of
they're
course
doing the
not.
right things, but not knowing the culture and the healing that needs to take place. It's
Mhm.
really detrimental to the children. And I've seen charities have like it's a zoo, people coming in, busloads of people, white people coming in and showing them all the poor, orphans or whatever, and having a nice lunch while looking at them and hugging them, and then they go off to their 5-star hotel.
Mm.
It's really degrading, and there's so much good to it because those people they give big checks and a lot of money, but it's really degrading to the children, and that's the most important thing in my eyes is, giving the children the respect that they deserve and not putting them on like that. So we
are there
always get
events
asked
that you do here in Australia then? Like we'll try to almost bring them there without bringing them there, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. Yeah, or to show them Kenya. Well, as I was going to say, we are looking into volunteering groups, but in a different way, not bringing them to Doyle Farm, which is what our farm's called, into our homes to ruin the routine of those children in there, but perhaps bringing them to Kenya to do a dentist, a dentistry camp, or coming over and giving skills to some locals there, or working with our Matani family, because that's a huge part of what we do, where we have 120 kids on the streets that we work to integrate back home as well. But on top of that, we do have events here where we have, had videos of the kids on display, or I go and do a talk, at a lunch event. But mainly the best way that people can help and support Rafiki is sponsoring children. We do like a $50 a month, the general sponsoring a child, which is $50 a month. And because I do everything I can to save money, we don't really send out things in the mail, and because that costs a lot of money. But I have a sponsor portal where we do everything online. So you can log in and see updates of the child through the sponsor portal. And often that works when you have children, because you can just have that connection and explain to your children, what things are like elsewhere. But also our Matani family, what we ask, if anyone donates, it could be $1 to anything, on an ongoing basis, then we send email updates to them just on the progress from our staff.
Yeah, that's good. That's really good.
So on the website, we have like a link at the top saying how to help. And there's a million different ways, I exaggerate, about 20 different options there on how you can help, big ways or small ways. There's so many different ways.
And the website, if you'd like to tell it for people where they can find you, it's rafikimwema.com.
Exactly.
Would you probably spell that out for them? It's RAFIKI and then MWEMA.com.
You got it. Exactly.
Yep.
And there's we also have volunteers in Australia helping. So we do take volunteers, but to help in Australia with all the tasks because we don't employ people here, you can imagine every kind of task to keep a charity going, admin roles, really, board roles, risk and governance roles, marketing, all fundraising, all sorts. So we have about 38 volunteers in Australia.
Oh, that's really good. What's next there for Rafiki Mwema, Sarah? Like, I know times are tough, even in Australia, like everyone's complaining about the cost of living here. Like, what's next for Rafiki Mwema? What's your dream outcome over the next couple of years? Or are you just focused on here and now?
Yeah, day to day, but my board keeps me in line, and you do need to look into the future to continue. And, the goal for me and Rafiki is not to grow and get more houses, because the children, it's endless on how many children you can help. We have supported almost 200 children back into their community. We have 70 children on the farm now. We feed 100 kids every day, and from the street family, we have integrated about 68 back into their home. So got those kids off the street. But the main goal now is to bring some sustainability there. We have a big farm where we have 3 large greenhouses. We've just built a fish farm. We have 5 cows. We have chickens. We have rabbits. We're doing all we can we grow all the food we have there, we eat. We grow most of what we eat, and then we give to the street family as well. We're just growing the fish. Is that what you do? Yes, we grow fish, fingerlings. I don't know. I'm not a farmer, but we're working on becoming sustainable and not battling every month to just pay the bills and worry if I'm going to be able to pay the staff. Build up the bank balance to have security, because I can't take a day off because we're not going to feed the children and pay the staff this month. I really want security for Rafiki Mwema long term to make sure it's going
Good.
to live a long time past me.
Yep.
It's so important, the work we do, and we see real impact and real results on what we're doing. And through the courts, we've sent nearly 70 rapists to prison for life. We see the impact on what we're doing. So just to keep us secure and get funding in, we're losing donors all the time. Like you said, Australians are facing it, the struggles as well. Even people giving $5 a month are having to stop that because they just can't continue. And, as I said before, all those small amounts really do add up. So just really getting Rafiki to be as secure as possible.
Yeah. Well, for creators listening, how can they use their platforms to directly support Rafiki Mwema? Are there any ways they can reach out? You mentioned your website. They can go to the How to Help. Is that
How to
the right
help
section?
page there, that's right. Or if you click the contact us, it's got all of our platforms. We're everywhere. So there's so many ways. We're on every social media platform to just share out to their audience. We've just signed, we've been approved on Givefluence. I hope I'm saying that right. So we're going to reach out to, creators there to see if they can connect that with every subscriber. We will get $1 if they choose us. You should. And
they can actually make it, it's not just $1, Sarah, they can make it any amount that they like. So I'll share my screen actually while we're in the conversation. I'll show the viewers how they can support Rafiki Mwema through Givefluence. So if they come to the app, which is givefluence.app, they can launch a campaign. They can just log in with Google, create a campaign, and then connect their YouTube channel. And what they do then is essentially they can choose a subscriber goal here. So if they'd like to get 1,000 new subscribers to their channel, or maybe just something like 100 new subscribers, that's fine. They can customize the amount per new subscriber that they'd like to donate.
Great. Awesome.
Yeah. So they choose a start and end date, and then here's where they can find you. So if they type in, I believe it's under international, but if they type in Rafiki Mwema. So I've got you on the platform now. So they can just choose you like this, and then they'll see their donation breakdown, where the fees goes and how much gets donated, and they can choose to cover the fees as well to make sure that the full amount goes to Rafiki Mwema through Little Phil. So it's really simple. They can launch a campaign, and then once it's live, it's done, it's connected to their channel. Every new subscriber, the $1 automatically goes to Rafiki Mwema. So that's how it works, guys.
That's
I'll stop sharing. Yeah.
Excellent. And yes, as I said, we don't have huge marketing departments. We don't have loads of people who are employed. So we rely on everyday people just to share out to their networks and things, because you never know where it's going to lead. And we don't pay for any advertising. So every share really helps.
Well, that's the idea, right? Like, I guess if you've got a content creator setting up a campaign like this for Rafiki Mwema, they're then incentivized in each one of their videos that they make, right, to put out to their audience. And they might get, tens of thousands of views, or even if they're just starting out as fine, 100 views is still 100 people. But if they're telling their viewers that, guys, every new subscriber to my channel is going to be a donation going to this awesome charity that I'm really passionate about, and all you have to do is click subscribe. The viewer, it's a very simple act. It doesn't cost the viewer anything. They're just clicking one button and making a difference, and obviously helping the YouTuber grow their channel, which is really important to them. So look, I think I'm really excited to see the potential of this. And yeah, look, thank you, Sarah, for coming on the show and talking to us about the charity that you've spent your life dedicated, the last 14 years, I believe, dedicated to. It's really fantastic and amazing work that you do, Sarah. And yeah, just wanted to shine a bit of a spotlight on, I guess, this work that you've done and your commitment. It is, I can imagine, just your day to day and sort of trying to make sure that everyone's getting paid and ensure that they feel safe, especially the girls that are there and the children. I think that's the most important thing. Yeah, like you said, that's what really keeps you going. Was there any final words you'd like to say to the listeners just before we part ways?
Only just, I don't think I mentioned that we are a registered Australian charity, so donations receive tax deductible receipt. But
Correct.
I always say to people, a lot of people I know don't give the $5 because they're embarrassed. They think it's not enough, and, they think other people are donating a lot. But $5 will feed 5 kids. So many other dollar handles that I can tell you what that impact will have. And if so many people give that $5, it really does add up. And yeah, $1, $2, it doesn't matter. It all adds up. Like I said, with the Queen's Castle, it was extraordinary. It's the fastest growing GoFundMe of that year, I believe. They reached out to us.
That was one person, right? One creator.
Yeah,
Imagine if we can get a team of them working.
exactly. So any amount helps. And, even if you don't have the money to share, you just don't know. I found that creator because one of our sponsors shared it to her. And imagine, you just never know where a share can lead to. Everything helps. Everything does.
Yeah.
So just do something. Don't do nothing.
That's what the podcast is about. Share this podcast with a friend that might, get some value from it. Look, Sarah, thank you again for sharing your journey and the powerful work that you and your team are doing. Look, if you've been moved by today's conversation, you can support Rafiki Mwema right now on Givefluence. It's one of the newest registered charities on the platform. All donations are fully tax deductible. Whether you're a YouTuber, a content creator, someone who simply cares, you can start a subscribe to give campaign or make a one-off donation directly to Rafiki Mwema that's going to help, provide safety, therapy, and education for these children. So just head to givefluence.app, search for Rafiki Mwema like we did before, and become part of the change. Together we can turn compassion into action and give these kids the loyal friend they deserve.
Thank you so much. That's awesome.
Bye-bye.